And for an in-depth look at how China's slowdown is impacting Latin America, I spoke to Reid. He's a columnist for Bello and a senior editor for The Economist in Latin America. I began by asking him about the potential fallout from China's changing economy.
Well, it's been dramatic in the past decade because of the Chinese boom. Prices of commodities, of things like oil and minerals and foodstuff that South American countries in particular export, were pushed up to very high levels. That prompted much faster growth in South America. Now that China has slowed, the impact on commodity prices has been dramatic. They've plunged over the last year, and that's meant that exports in South America have fallen, and investment has fallen too, because quite a lot of investment was linked to commodities.
Any particular region or country that's been really adversely affected?
Venezuela, because of the plunge in the oil price. Brazil, because of the fall in iron ore and soybeans to an extent, but also oil. Chile and Peru, because of the fall in the copper price. But the impact has varied according to the domestic situation as well. Those countries that spent irresponsibly and wildly, particularly Venezuela, but also Brazil, face a much more difficult adjustment now than those who manage their affairs pretty well, such as Chile, Peru, and Colombia.
So how do they turn their economies around then at this point? I mean, many of them really are so overly reliant on trade with China.
That's right, and there's a medium-term agenda here that they face in terms of boosting competitiveness and productivity. I mean, quite a few have their currencies have depreciated over the past year, which, provided you manage the short-term effects on inflation, can lay the ground for an export-led recovery based on a more diversified basket of exports. But it's hard work to get there. So that in the short term, I mean, you're looking at a slight contraction of the economy in Latin America this year, mainly because of Brazil and Venezuela.
So much has been made of this sort of competition between China and the United States in terms of their economic relationships with this part of the world. With China slowing down and the impact being felt in these economies, is this an opportunity for the U.S. to step in?
I think it certainly is an opportunity. I mean, whether it's taken is another matter, but I think it certainly is an opportunity because quite a large amount of manufacturing exports from Latin America go to the U.S., not to China. I think there's more interest now now that the easy growth from commodities is over, there's more interest in expanding trade in other things. And politically, I mean, you've had a series of left-wing anti-American governments here in some countries over the past dozen years. The American initiative with Cuba has gone down very well in the region. I think that the United States has diplomatic but also trade opportunities and investment opportunities here in the region, which doesn't mean that the links with China are going to disappear. They're going to change.
Well, and of course, earlier this week, we had this huge Trans-Pacific Partnership deal announced, and some of the same countries in South America that border the Pacific Ocean, they're part of this agreement. They're also big trading partners with China. How do you see the TPP arrangement, if passed by all of these economies, affecting the trade flows?
Well, I think there'll be a small increase in trade flows. I mean, the interest in countries like Chile, Peru, and Mexico, who are the Latin American ones who are members, is more about rules and regulations. It's being inside rather than outside to attract investment, though there are some trade effects as well. But I think China is here to stay in Latin America. I think the trade may have fallen. Investment is increasing, and Chinese loans to the region are changing. But I think the relationship will evolve. It needs to become more of a two-way street.